I'd be the same if it was a cat, because they make as much mess as dogs. Only cats you can be allergic to, so people make allowances. And flowers, of course, some people. Only we don't have flowers. Well, we do. They're all washable. I just think it spies on me. That tongue lolling out. He took the van over to Rawdon last night. Said it was Rawdon anyway. Doing something or other, fly tipping probably. Text Tina, which was a relief from the woof woofing, but it gave me a chance to swill. I'd had Mrs. Catchpole opposite banging on the door in the afternoon saying she was going to the council because it wanted putting down. I said, I agree. She said, I'm getting a petition up. I said, well, when you do, fetch it across. I shall be the first signatory. I hate the flaming dog. Of course, she doesn't do it with him. Never makes a muff when he's around. He comes in after midnight. Puts his clothes in the washer. I said to him last week, why don't you do your washing at a cultivated hour? He said, you're lucky I do it at all. Still, at least the washer's in the shed. I shouted down, that dog's not inside, is she? He said, no, get to sleep. Which I was doing, only when he comes up, he's nothing on. Leaves it a bit and slides over to my side and starts carrying on. Found a dog hair or two on the carpet this morning, so that meant another shampooing job. Only did it last week. This shampoo's got air freshener in, plus a disinfectant apparently. Non-stop down the yard since they started killing off the cows, so when he comes in this dinner time he wants to eat straight off. Spools his boots under the outside tap, and he's coming in like that. I said, Stuart, you know the rules, take them off. He said, there's no time. I said, if there's not time, you have it on the step. Sits there, eating and feeding Tina. She licks his boots, literally. Suppose it's with him coming straight from the slaughterhouse. Seems to have lost another anorak. This one fur-lined. She comes up this afternoon. His mother. All dolled up. Says, you've got the place nice. How would you manage with our Stuart? I said, I've got him trained. She said, he's not trained when he comes down our house. Well, I said, perhaps he doesn't get the encouragement. She said, I don't like it when they're too tidy. It's not natural. Not natural in their house. They've no culture at all. First time I went down there, they were having their dinner. There was a pan stuck on the table. When it comes to evolution, they are scarcely above pigsty level. And she must be 60. Still dyes her hair, fagging mouth, big earrings. Says, you don't mind if I smoke, or do you want me to sit on the step? Gave her a saucer, only didn't do much good. Ash all over the shop. She does it on purpose. It had gone 5. She said, where is he? I said, where he generally is at this time of day. Slitting some defenceless creature's throat. They're on overtime. She went before it got dark. Said she was nervous, what with this fella on the loose. Made a fuss of Tina. Remembered her when she was a puppy running round their house. I remembered it and all. Doing its business all up and down the place. Stank. It was me that trained Stuart. Me that trained the dog. Except for the din. Can't train that. Leaves off, of course, when he appears. Oh, you don't believe she does it. I said to him, is it safe for me to go on to the library? He said, why? I said, there's a lass dead in Wakefield now. He said, you don't cross any waste ground. Take Tina. Anyway, I didn't go. And when he changed out of his muck, swilled everything off, he put on his navy shirt, little chain round his neck, and the tan slacks we bought him in Marbella. Bought him a beer in a glass, while I had a sherry. Him sat on one side of the fire, me on the other, watching the TV with the sound down. I said, this is a nice, civilised evening. Only, of course, Madam gets wind of the fact we're having a nice time. Starts whimpering and whatnot, jumping up outside the window and carries on and carry on till he has to take her out. Gone 2 hours, so I'm in bed when he comes back. Comes upstairs without his trousers on. I said, what do you do with your slacks? He said, oh, dog jumped up and got mud on. Anyway, it's quite handy, isn't it? I said, why? He said, why do you think? Move up. Lots of shouting and whatnot. Not in the middle of it, it's a blessing we're detached. He said, sorry about that when he'd done. I'll get carried away. Loudspeaker van came round this afternoon. Said the police was going to be coming round house to house. I was just getting some stuff ready to take to the dry cleaners. Well, it was light still. Couldn't find his slacks. She said, have you any suspicions of anyone in your family? I said, what family? There's only me and him. He said, we can't talk with this dog carrying on. Can't we come inside? I said, you told people not to open the doors. She said, yes, but we're the police. I said, well, take your shoes off. She's in uniform. He's got a raincoat on. She said, we've had complaints about the dog. It's in your printout. I said, oh, it's the dog, is it? I thought it was the killer you were after. She said, your hubby says it never barks. I said, when did you talk to him? She said, at his place of employment. These are the dates of the murders. Look at them and tell me whether you can remember where your husband was on any of these dates. I said he was at home. He's always at home. She said, our information is he'll sometimes go out. I said, yes, with the dog. Do you know dogs? They occasionally want to have a Jimmy Riddle. She said, what about this fly tipping? His van's been seen. I said, the van's not my province, though I've shared the back seat with a beast head before now. Meanwhile, one in the raincoat's been sitting, saying nothing, looking round, sizing the place up. Suddenly he stands up. Can I use the toilet? I said, no. Well, you'll have to wait while I put a paper down. So I took him upstairs and I waited outside. He said, I can't do it with you listening. So I came downstairs again and she says he's got a funny bladder. One last question. Have you noticed anything out of the ordinary about your husband stroke boyfriend, stroke father, stroke son? Well, that's husband, in your case. Over the last 6 months. Like what? Blood on his clothes? I said, there's always blood. He's a slaughter man, only you won't find any in here, and he won't find any outside. He swirls it off. I said, your friend's taking his time. She said, men have problems with the water. I've an idea he has an appliance. When eventually he comes down, he says, you keep the place tidy. I said, I used to be a teacher. He said, oh, what did you teach? I said, children. He said, do you have any? I said, does it look like it? As they're going, Mother Catchpole opposite stood in the road and shouts across, "I've got something to tell you." Girl goes over and has a word, comes back. "Nothing," she said. "It's the flaming dog. Nobody listens to me," she's shouting. "I've had a depression with that dog." I shut the door. When I went upstairs to wipe round the toilets, saw he'd moved 1 or 2 ornaments. Nothing else I could remember. When his lordship came back, I said, "You didn't tell me they'd been to your work." He said, "Oh, it was routine. I've tipped on one of the sites where they found one of them." I said, "You find that ticket?" He said, "What ticket?" "For the dry cleaners, the tan slacks." He said, "Oh yeah, they're at work." I said, "You're not wearing them for work. They're good slacks are them." He said, "They're shit-coloured. What do I want with shit-coloured trousers?" He was in the yard, swilling his boots, when he was saying all this. Outside. Started being much more careful with all that. I don't know what's got into him. There was a lad opposite delivering 4 pizzas to number 17. She's a widow, living on her own with a son in New Zealand and a heart condition. What's she wanting with 4 pizzas? Bet she's never had a pizza in her life. They must think I'm stupid. The doctor says, "Why can't you sleep?" I said, "The police are bugging my home." She said, "Yes, there's a lot of it about. Asian too. Normally a bit more civil." We went out in the van the other night, and he stopped it somewhere, and he said, "Do you think it's me?" I said, "No." He said, "Well, my mum does. It was her that went to the police." And what did they say? Told her she wasn't the only one. Others queuing up, apparently. I said, "Well, she might cut a bit more ice if she didn't wear that leopard skin coat thing. Legacy from when she was at it herself." He said, "At what?" "Soliciting." He said, "Who told you that?" I said, "You did. You said you was hard up." He said, "Oh, it was years ago. I was still at school." He went out with Tina later on. Comes in all worked up again. Sets to. Thought he was going to go through the bed. Saying stuff out loud again. I thought of them across the road, listening, so I put my hand over his mouth at one point. Which he seemed to like. I waited to see if there was anything in the papers. Oh, no, there wasn't. Been nothing for about a week now. You can get things out of proportion, I think. Found where they put the listening thing this morning. Little hole in the skirting board. He did it when he was reckoning to go to the lavatory. He must have been quick. He managed to colour it white so it didn't show. Only some fluff got stuck to the paint. So that's how I spotted it. Found another one, looks like. This time on a skip. Been there about a week. One of them leaps over the wall, quite unnecessarily in my opinion, because the gate's wide open. I get it off the TV. 5 police cars, batter on the door, and when he opens it, bowl him over and put handcuffs on him and take him off with a jacket over his head. Tina, of course, is going mad. And they've got a dog of their own, which doesn't help. I said, "You're not fetching that thing in here." He said, "We've got a warrant." I said, "His dog's never been in. I don't see why your dog should." He said, "This is an instrument of law enforcement." I said, "Yes. And it's an instrument of urinating against lampposts and leaving parcels on pavements. I don't want it sniffing round my stuff." He said, "You haven't got no choice, love." Shoves me out the way. One of them's upstairs, going through the airing cupboard. I said, "What are you looking for?" maybe I can help. He said, if you must know, we're looking for the murder weapon. I said, oh, I can show you that. This is the murder weapon. This is always the murder weapon. You want to drag the canal for that? He said, you sound sicker than he does. I don't think you realise the seriousness of your situation. We find out you know what's been going on, you'll be in the dock yourself. I said, don't put those sheets back. I shall have them all to wash now you've been handling them. He said we shall want all his clothes and other selected items and produces a roll of bin bags. Is everything here? He hasn't got anything at the dry cleaners. I said, no. I said, how do I know we'll get all this stuff back? He said, that's the least of your worries. When eventually they go, the handler reckons to take charge of Tina, only he can't get her to go in the car with them. Then when they do force her in, they all pile out sharpish because she straight away does her business in the car. I laughed. Suddenly quiet when they're gone. Just Mother Catchpole at her gate, shouting. Doctor says I'm clinically depressed. That dog wants putting down. Police said I wasn't to touch anything, but I wasn't having the place left upset like that. So, set to. Clean down, repair the ravages a bit. One or two folks outside the house, looking in. The phone rings now and again, but I don't answer. Getting dark by the time I'd finished. But I didn't turn the lights on. Just sat there. They must have charged him around 6. Because suddenly there was cars drawing up and the phone's going like mad and reporters banging on the door and shouting through the letterbox and whatnot. I just sit there in the dark and don't take on. Another parcel of excrement through the letterbox this morning. Postmarked Selby. Pleasant place. Had a little run there once in the van. Saw the cathedral. The abbey. Whatever it is. Shop with booklets and tea towels. The way they do. Had a cup of coffee in a cafe down the street. Postman wanged it through that hard it split on the doormat. Probably deliberate. I got some plastic down from the previous turns, but still had to set to again. Spend a fortune on Deckle. Trials in Manchester, for some reason. Out of the area. They can't call me, unless I choose, which I don't. Woman spat at me in Sainsbury's. So I shop at the Asian shops now. Everywhere else they stare. Have to go 30 miles to get a perm. Go by minicab. Asians again. Never liked them much before. Don't ask questions. Godsend. Reporter comes ringing the doorbell this afternoon. I think they must take it in turns. Shouts through the letterbox. I said, you want to be careful with that letterbox. You don't know what's been through it. Says I'm sitting on a fortune. Talks about £10,000. My side of the story. Final speeches today. It rests on the dog, apparently. The rest is circumstantial. The The van seen where the murders were. Stopped once even, but nothing else. Nothing on his tools, nothing on his clothes. Only they found blood belonging to the last one, on the dog. The defence says it could have rolled in the blood, because with the dog being fastened up all day, when they went off, he let it roam all over. So he don't mean he was with her, or anywhere near. The dog was off the lead. Judge likes dogs. Has a dog of his own, apparently. I don't know if that'll make any difference. I saw him before the trial started. Looked thinner. I was disappointed not to see him wearing a tie. I thought a tie would have made a good impression, only they used them to commit suicide, apparently. I wish I had something to do. I've cleaned down twice already. Yard wants doing, honey. Can't do it with folks and reporters hanging about. He's lying, of course. Our Tina hasn't been seen to. So when he takes her out, he never lets her off the lead. Ever. Marjorie, Marjorie. They still shout over the gate now and again. One of them there this morning. Most of them are gone. I'm going to leave a couple of the young ones here just in case I go shopping. Jury's been out 2 days now, and they think it might be a week. Anyway, I thought while the heat was off, I might be able to sneak out into the yard and give the kennel a good going over. The forensics took her blanket away, which was a blessing. I said to the fella, don't bother fetching it back. I'd have wothered it long since if he'd let me. Peeped out of the gate to see if it was safe to swill. And there's a couple of the young reporters sat on Mrs. C's doorstep having a cup of tea. I don't know what she'll do when it's all over. She's having the time of her life. Anyway, I chucked a bucket of water under the kennel. Then another. Only it didn't seem to be coming out the other side. I thought it was muck that had built up or something. So I came in and got a wire coat hanger and started scraping about underneath. And there's something there. It was his tan slacks. They were all mucky. Plastered up with something. I sneaked in and got a bin bag and fetched him inside. See, thinking back, police had been round with a dog. Only, I suppose it couldn't smell anything except Tina. I sat there staring at this bag, wondering if there was somebody I should ring up. And suddenly there's a banging on the door. A voice through the letterbox, Marjorie, Marjorie. I didn't listen. I ran with the bag, put it in the cupboard under the stairs. More clattering at the door. Marjorie, Marjorie. They've come back. The jury. He's been acquitted. He's got off. Can we have a picture? The young woman said, did I want any assistance with costume or styling? There'll be a lot of photographers. I said, what's the matter with what I got on? She said I could arrange for someone to come round and give you a shampoo and set. I said I could arrange for someone to come round and give you a kick up the arse. Though come to think of it, I couldn't actually. She said the paper's got a lot of money invested in you. I said, well, that's your funeral. Picture of him and the dog on the front page this morning. Dog licking his face, ears up, paws on his shoulder, loving every minute of it. Spent the night in a hotel. 5-star, paid for by some newspaper. Article, these nightmare months. I stood by him. Apparently. Says, the longed-for reunion with his wife Marjorie is scheduled for sometime this afternoon. Police are furious. The inspector in charge of the investigation says, put it this way, we're not looking for anybody else. Sat waiting all afternoon. Photographers stood on the wall opposite. And on chairs and kitchen stools, and 2 of them on top of a car, 1 up a tree. Police keeping the crowds back. Getting dark when a big car draws up. Pandemonium. Policeman bangs on the door and Stuart stood there on the doorstep. All the cameras are going and them shouting, over here, Stuart, Marjorie, over here, please. They want pictures of us with the dog. Only the fella from the newspaper says no, they're going to be exclusive. I said, well, I've washed her kennel. He said, she's not staying in there. She's not fetching her inside. He said, I bloody am. I said, well, she'll have to stay on her paper. Later on, when we were in bed, I wanted to shut her downstairs in the kitchen. But he wouldn't have that either. Keeps kissing her and whatnot. Says she has to come upstairs. When we're in bed, he starts on straight away. Keeps asking Tina if she's taking it all in. Afterwards, he says, you surprised I'm not guilty? I said, I don't know, do I? No, I'm not surprised. Surprised you got off. He said, don't you think I'm not guilty? I said, I don't know, do I? He said, you bloody do. I said, he said, you bloody better know. You're as bad as my mum. I said, I am not your mum. He said, no, you're bloody not. And laughed. I must have fallen asleep, because when I wake up, he's sleeping. Dog's off its paper, sat on his side of the bed watching him. I get up and I go downstairs and I get the bin bag from under the stairs. Only I don't put any lights on. Then I get the poker and go out into the yard. And I push the slacks back under the kennel. It's a bit moonlighting. When I look over the gate, they've all gone. Just a broken chair on the pavement opposite. I get back into bed. And in a bit he wakes up. And he has another go.